Welcome back, guys. Cliff, Chandra, and Dustin here, Not Gospel Studios. We just watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and we're going to talk about it because there are things to be said about it. So, this is Not Gospel.
We all grew up in Kentucky in Pentecostal homes, kind of. Well, you were partly in Florida.
We're still talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm just saying perspective-wise.
What a segue.
We grew up with certain spirituality.
We were in the Bible Belt, and
Yes.
very conservative Christian, let's say, fundamentalist Christian theology type thing.
And I'm wondering if we all noticed the similar things in the movies and that we're just crazy because of where we grew up with, or if this was purposeful and everyone across the world's going to notice things.
Okay, well, let's
So
start.
did you notice things?
Let's start with a hot take of
Yeah.
what do you think about the movie, like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Were you noticing religious undertones?
Oh, well, okay, so forget what I said. Hold on, before we get to the details, the quick and dirty of what do you think, scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about the movie?
Give it a 5.
5. Okay,
Like, it was entertaining. It was good. I wouldn't really care to watch it again.
all right. Chandra.
6.5.
Okay, I give it a solid 7. I would say good, not great. In my opinion,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10's. 10's a perfect movie. 8 and 9's are great movies.
Yeah. 8, 9s, 10s, I'll watch again. Usually this, I probably won't watch again, but I enjoyed it.
I give it a 7, and I think my scale on it is subconsciously jaded by the fact that the past 4 Marvel movies have been total dog poo.
I didn't even watch
You know,
it.
so
Yeah.
so when you get to this, like,
People are dipping out. They don't care anymore.
everything since this is the best thing, in my opinion, that Disney's put out, Disney Marvel, since No Way Home. And I thought No Way Home was excellent.
Oh, No Way Home was great.
But Quantum Mania was poo-poo. In my opinion, Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness,
Didn't even watch it.
I
I
watched
think you
it.
should.
I watched it, and to me, it was a kid movie, but it was too serious to be a kid movie. So it lands in a place where it's like, I'm good.
After the fact, I now enjoy it.
Well, so let's talk about this movie. The first thing Chandra wants to talk about, now that we've gotten our ratings out of the way. Also, I will say this: I don't recommend it. To parents with children, young children, screen it first. Screen it first. Even though I liked it, I don't think this is a kids movie. I am not letting my kids. I have a 9 and below. If I had a 10-year-old, I would not let them watch this movie. I don't think it's to me. It's just a little too dark, so a little heavy. But now,
Are we doing spoilers?
oh yeah, this is spoilers. Just so you know, spoilers throughout. We're going to talk about specific details about the movie. Yeah. This content is brought to you by notgospelstudios.com. If you want to support the channel but don't know how, just click on over to notgospelstudios.com, follow and subscribe to us on all of our listening platforms, and then click the store icon where you can purchase Not Gospel Studios merch, including custom spray art. If you'd like your own custom spray art painting, just click the custom spray art icon, and as you're checking out, in the additional notes section, tell us what you want on your painting. We'll create your painting, post the video of it, and you can watch the entire process of how your painting was created while you're waiting for your custom artwork to arrive at your door. As always, thank you guys so much for listening and watching and supporting, and keep being awesome, because that's how God made you.
Was I just being a crazy religious person, or did you see religious undertones in it also?
So here's my problem that I have when I watch movies. I shut my brain off.
Oh.
So, like, a lot of times when people are like, oh, I didn't like the political undertones and things like that, I'm just like, I didn't notice.
You just enjoy it
I'm
for
here
what
to
it
just
is.
be entertained.
Yeah. So you didn't. I mean, he was literally a god to a planet. You weren't thinking about what they were saying about us and what we think about our God.
Nope.
Interesting.
I was just brain off, entertained.
To me, the God in the movie that makes this whole planet of people, it seems very much like they are taking what Christians believe and say what they say about Christians and put it in a movie and made us just this bunch of ignorant people worshiping a violent God that we don't even know. And it was just crazy.
See, to me, the one time they really talked about God and religion was actually, I thought, very, very effective. I felt like the one time they kind of went to God was when the otter said, "It's not about the hands that make us; it's about the hands that guide the hands." And I feel like that's when they were actually talking about God was actually a just.
I
legit
felt like
thing.
that sweet little otter was the only bone it threw us in terms of what a real Christian would be like.
First off, I know the comic lore.
Yeah.
So, as someone who follows the comic lore, I don't see them deliberately making moves to jab at Christianity because these crazy celestial beings of super power doing these things, almost God-like, God-tier type stuff, is pretty common in the comic lore.
Yeah.
So, that to me makes it where it's like, I get it. They're not making fun of God or making fun of Christians, in my opinion. They're following the.
Well, you don't think
comic
the
lore.
original comic creator was doing that and they're just continuing with it?
No, I'm thinking
Interesting.
their stories are influenced by their life, and they're influenced by religion and all this kind of stuff. But to make wild and crazy stories, benevolent God type characters and non-benevolent God type characters. And I think this one is just one of those non-benevolent God type characters.
Interesting. Because to me, it seemed extremely obvious and hateful.
Well, and also I anticipate from people, especially like James Gunn and those people who are not Christians in Hollywood, I anticipate their thoughts. They're not trained in theology the way I am and all this. I anticipate their thoughts in the supernatural, when you get into super powerful cosmic stuff, to be completely crazy, wild, and out there. So I have a tendency to, maybe you can call it being desensitized to it. I have a tendency to just kind of like ignore all of that because I feel like it's a child trying to explain to me how a computer works. It's like, you're a child, you don't know how God works, you're trying to explain it to me. Most of what you think about that, I'm just going to write off as insane
You're like,
blabber.
I understand it's a pretzel cracker.
Yes, exactly. It's a child. The computer works. I turn it on, the screen lights up, and words. It's like, yeah, you know nothing about what you're talking about, but you want to play Mind Slayer on it or whatever it is. You want to play a video game.
Well, were you trying to turn your brain off and you're just absorbing for what it is? Do you think you're getting indoctrinated? If you're not thinking about things?
No.
Interesting.
See, for me, just like
as impressionable as you are.
just like the child can't tell me about the computer, James Gunn can't tell me about Jesus, right? Can't tell me about God. So now I'm trying to pay attention to the thing James Gunn can tell me about, which is a story.
Okay.
I'm like, what's the story you're trying to tell me?
Well, where you did not feel impressioned upon, do you think a child would? It's almost like an indoctrination into, like, this is how dumb you are to believe in your God and that he's a good, benevolent being.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think they would.
That's crazy to me. It's setting the whole culture up for disbelief in God.
Maybe. But I think it's late in the game at that point. I think so much of culture's already tilted that way that it's hard
just
to
a
blame.
whole nother thing.
Yeah, it's hard to blame Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever for it when I feel like
Well, I don't blame it for the culture, but I don't think
you think they're
it's healthy.
participating in the God
Oh
bashing.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. I could say they're participating in the stuff we think about religion is false and bogus. But since I feel like my kids have the common sense through their upbringing with me to know, if I were to let them watch it, to know that that's a load of crap. They know the truth. They've seen it. So again, I don't worry about, and I don't critique the movie on its agenda towards or against religion.
I would harshly.
I'm critiquing it on the storytelling. If the agenda against religion was so much so that like it was impacting the story and making the story bad, then I'd be like, it's no different than watching God's Not Dead or one of those movies, and if their agenda to get somebody saved is impacting your storytelling, I'm like, this is not.
And it does.
Yes, it's not a good movie to watch. So in this movie, I didn't think the religious overtones impacted the story. I think on a lot of times it added to it because it made that villain a much more compelling and creepy villain. Like very much.
Especially when he said, like, when they accuse him of being like God, and he's like, well, no one else is doing it, why not me? Or whatever the exact line was. Like, I'm surprised you didn't go the opposite way with it. Like,
I thought it was a commentary on our Christian God, for sure.
well, I'm surprised you didn't look at it as like it being almost reinforcing Christianity because he's a false God and he's recognized as a false God.
Yeah.
I felt that way. I felt like the only time they
Only by the other beings who was in space with them, all these people on this planet didn't know.
See, I didn't look at him as like a God character. I looked at him as like a Hitler character.
Yeah.
I looked at him as like trying to perfect the perfect race, and it was almost like retelling the Great War of 1942. They went in
Maybe
trying
it's
to make
'cause of
Aryans.
the male ego. Like, you see yourself in the Star-Lord spot who knows the information and stuff, whereas most people would maybe view themselves on the planet spot of, I'm just the creation, you know?
Chander's just the creation. She's just space trash.
Shut up, doesn't
Well, I frig if I know. I'm just a man who thinks I know everything. So what do I know?
No, I didn't mean it that way. I'm just saying.
She did.
No.
No, when people watch something, they put themselves in the, you know.
No, that is worth talking about. That's not that the religious overtones work. That's where I start going to. When I sit down to watch a movie, I start looking at the storytelling. What are they doing with the characters? What story are they telling? Is it worth my time? That's what made this movie good, not great. Because I could admit that it was a good story, and I there are moments where I teared up a little bit. Like, I'm not going to lie, it was very, like I said, the best thing Marvel's come out with since No Way Home, in my opinion. I felt like No Way Home was better, but it was better than the previous movies. This movie was. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 was better. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I'm not sure which one would be better.
I loved the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't even remember what was the second one, but I will remember more about the third. Oh, that big head that they live in?
Ego. It was his father.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what was cool to me about Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is that, okay, so Quantum Mania was a big story with a big baddie in a realm that I didn't care anything about. It was in the quantum realm, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania.
Yeah.
I fell asleep in the middle of that movie. It was just,
I could see that.
it was so dull. Like, I did not enjoy that movie at all. This was a story that was told. Did you really, really like it?
Oh, no, his stomach growled.
Yeah. She was laughing at that. I didn't even watch it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you didn't really like it. That would actually have affected my opinion of you. I'd have been like, you really like
I would
that
have
movie?
watched and be like, I loved it.
Don't feel bad. My wife thought it was very enjoyable, but her favorite movie is Dumb and Dumber. So we watch movies for different things. But Quantum Mania, didn't like it. It was in a realm I didn't care about, was detached from. This movie was in a realm I was completely detached from, like Counter Earth or whatever it was. Still thought the story was very, very compelling. I was engaged with the story.
Well, part of the reason I like the story so much is because it was giving you a background on why Rocket was the way Rocket is.
Yeah.
And that's always interesting. I like origin stories. Everyone does. That's why there's so many of them.
I thought they did really good with Rocket's origin story, showing you I want to say dramedy, and that's not the word, the horrible things that he went through without taking it too
The trauma
far.
that he had.
Trauma is the word I was
Yes,
looking
yes.
for. What he went through without traumatizing you in the experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like especially when they like found the file and it
Didn't
showed
show
them
you the footage.
reacting to
Yeah.
it, not the actual what happened.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was worse than what happened to.
Nebula.
Yeah.
See, this is worse than what
And that was a
Thanos
good
did
way to
me.
put it in perspective too. Like
Yeah.
there were so many good aspects of the movie.
So, talking about everything that was good about it, I felt like it was very compelling. I like the
Are
fact.
you willing to go up from a
five?
from a 5?
Hold on, here's the
Watch it
deal.
again.
So, what was really good about it to me is that you can tell a story that's very compelling about a universe that I'm disconnected from, and it's not a world-ending story. This, the High Evolutionary, he's a very compelling villain, but he doesn't have impact on the entire ethos, on everything. It's a contained thing. He has this little planet. He set it up with his little anamorphic people. He's trying to make a perfect thing, but Earth's fine. Earth was obviously fine because Star-Lord's in the end eating cereal with his grandpa. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's totally has nothing to do with us. It's not a world-ending, earth-shattering Thanos type thing, yet it was very compelling, which shows that they could do stories like that with other characters and be very interesting without it being like, oh, it's the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, and I liked that. Are we ready to go into what we didn't like about it?
I think I started with that.
You kind of did.
So one of the big things that me and Chandler both agree on is we don't like in TV shows or movies when they have the character do something that the character wouldn't normally do.
It's not an earned choice.
Yes. That to me was all of Nebula in the entire
Nebula.
film.
Wow.
Like she didn't act like herself like maybe once in the entire movie. And like I get like her going through what she went through with Tony Stark could have changed her and in game or whatever. But still, like, there's so much development of her character beforehand. It didn't warrant the change that she went through. Didn't warrant the way that she was in this.
Did you see the holiday special?
No.
It's an hour long. It's actually really good. They kidnap Kevin Bacon
Oh,
to bring
I saw
him
clips.
for Star-Lord for his to make
I didn't see
him
that.
feel happy or whatever for Christmas. They try to get him the best Christmas present ever, and they kidnap Kevin Bacon. That shows even more of her character development. The softening of Nebula.
That might be why I thought that then, because I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
she softened considerably because of her connection with her and Gamora. The second Guardians of the Galaxy, their connection is kind of even more evolved and like family. And she feels, in my opinion, Nebula felt like a redeemable character. But I do agree with what you're saying. The unearned choices were thick through this whole movie. One of the main things I didn't like about it is the story was cool, but the characters have now turned into caricatures of themselves. They made Drax a dumb butt, a complete idiot throughout the entire movie. And Drax was not an idiot. That was never
He
Drax's
was
thing.
very literal, so he was perceived as an
There
idiot.
was funny moments, comedic moments with him because he was a literal person. One of the funniest ones was when he was asking Ego in the second movie about whether or not he had a penis. He's like, "Did you make a penis?" And he's like, "Oh, we don't want to know about that." He's like, "Well, he had to make a baby somehow." And then they're like, he's like, "I want to hear about my parents doing it." And Drax is like, "Why not? My father would tell us every solstice about the story about how they impregnated my mother." You know, and it's like, it's fantastic. It's beautiful.
Jenner
You know,
tries
like-
to get mom to do that to us on her birthday.
so he wasn't like this idiot. He's just somebody who's was very literal. This movie, he's an idiot the entire movie, and I hated that. And then Gamora, they tried to make her so angry and so evil at the start of the movie that by the end, when she softens and becomes like this lovable sort of person, it didn't feel earned at all. It's like you cannot have that kind of transition over one movie.
Yeah.
It's like what they did with Game of Thrones, where they tried to like change the Mother of Dragons, like her entire character, by the like previously on.
Oh, you absolutely compare Game of Thrones to everything. If you want to talk about unearned choices, when she burns
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole town, like let's set it all on fire. Yes, that's the unearned choice that everybody knows. You've wasted 8 years of my life or whatever, with this dumb show. But I felt like that was throughout. I really did not like what they did with the characters, which is what makes this movie good, not great. They also forced the comedy in parts where it didn't need to be. I felt like a lot of the comedy was forced. Drax laying down on the couch in the middle of when they're in that house and he's laying down. Drax, I can see. And it's like a little bit of that is funny.
Yeah.
The F-bomb was forced. There's no need for the F-bomb in that scene. I was like, open the effing door or whatever. Is get in the car. Like, use it in a very sincere moment when Rocket Raccoon finally gets his vengeance on the High Evolutionary. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting Rocket Raccoon or something like that. If you're going to drop an F-bomb, if you have to. But not the way they used it. It was so... Ugh. But the characters to me, also, now you may not have picked up on this. You may, well, the way I did. And it's my fault because I'm sensitive to it. I felt like they were making fun of all the male characters throughout the entire movie. I felt like Star-Lord was this drunk idiot at the start of the movie, and throughout most of the movie had nothing good to contribute. Nebula picks up all the pieces, comes with all the plans, and is a bad A.
You think they feminized Guardians of the
And-
Galaxy?
Right. Drax is so dumb and so ignorant. He's just basically a wrecking ball the whole...
The what's her name has to be his like mother and monitor him the entire time.
Nebula and Mantis both have to
Mantis,
monitor him and mother him the whole time. And in the end, when Mantis says, she comes to the conclusion on her own. She goes, I'm leaving the Guardians because all I did was what Ego wanted me to do for so long. Now all I've done is what the Guardians want me to do for so long. I want to do what Mantis wants to do. That's cool. How did Drax find out what his calling was? Nebula told him. She's like, I realize you never were meant to be Drax the Destroyer, but you were meant to be a dad when he saw him with all the kids. And I'm like, so you give him no agency in his own life. It would have been way cooler if Drax looked and says, I was never meant to do the Guardians of this, that, and the others. I was meant to be a father. That was taken from me from Thanos. I'm going to go be a dad.
Yeah, and it would have brought it all full circle back to
It would have showed depth in his character. Instead, he's so stupid he can't even figure that out for himself.
Now, do you think they did it that way because they're not continuing his character on past this?
I think they did it that way. The way they chose to do it was because the movie's self-aware and they know the things that worked. So Drax was comedic relief, and Dave Bautista improv'd a lot of stuff in those movies at times. Improv a lot of the comedy. He's a funny dude. But
Is Gamora about to get her own movie too? Like the way they ended it with her, like you said, he's not going to be in it, so they did that with his character. Are they making a movie just on her? Is that why they made these choices with her character?
I think they're going to make a movie with Gamora and Star-Lord, or a show with Gamora and Star-Lord or something, because they said Star-Lord will return at the end of the whole movie, at the very, very end, after the last end credit scene. They said Star-Lord will return. So it makes me think that people got to be not satisfied with how Gamora and Star-Lord ended. Like, they want them to be back together. So there's probably going to be either a Disney Plus series or some special that sees them get back together. But I had no interest in Gamora at the start of the movie. She was so evil. It's like,
It wasn't her.
you're a
It makes
butthole.
sense.
No one wants to be around you.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I actually could be proud of one of the male characters, was when Star-Lord finally tells her, just stay away, just get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, leave us alone. You're a butt. Like, after he goes through all the crap and he wants her gone, that's the only time I actually could be proud of me. Hey, man, you did a good job. I feel like they pooped on the male characters a lot through the whole movie. Didn't give them a whole lot of agency. And I'm not offended by uplifting female characters. I'm just like, don't do that at the expense of your other characters.
Yeah.
You know?
I thought from the preview they were setting up kind of a love triangle. And so in the movie, they did make some jokes, but I don't think they were ultimately doing that.
No, yeah, with Nebula and, yeah.
Don't look at me with that puppy dog.
Which just made, it made Star-Lord look like desperate and lonely.
Yeah.
And that's
Which
like,
he was. But
which he was, but like,
yeah. It's when you clump it in with all the other stuff, it starts looking.
yeah, it just makes the male characters look pathetic. On top of that, for some reason in this movie, he just doesn't have his mask and his rocket boots, which would have been handy when he's floating through the space.
Yeah, I thought that when
dying.
I was watching it. I was like, can't he fly? Like,
Yeah, for some reason he gives up his equipment that he's known for this mission. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So the other male character that they clearly, again, this is another factoid of where they just abuse the male characters. Adam Warlock is a complete idiot.
Yeah,
He's
he was.
absolutely a buffoon.
Oh, yeah.
In the comics, he's
and even naming him Adam, talking about religious undertones. But sorry.
he's in the comics, he's a legendary character.
Oh.
He's one of the reasons they're able to beat Thanos. Is Adam Warlock. He's very, very like influential throughout the entire comic universe. They made him just a bumbling, super powerful baby in this movie, and I just was again pooping on the male characters.
I didn't stay for the after scenes, though.
It's just
Did
him. Yeah. So the one after scene shows the new Guardians. You've got Adam Warlock, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and then
a couple of the
Craggle
kids.
or Kraglin, and so you see who the new Guardians of the Galaxy are.
Yeah, they're sitting on the rock, or it looks like a rock, but it's actually Groot, and Rocket tells it, like, wake up, Groot, and then all those, like, dogs come.
It's Adam Warlock and them, and they're all the new Guardians of the Galaxy.
We stayed for it.
I don't think.
But after that,
100% did.
yeah, after
We left at
that,
the same time. We walked out of the theater at the same time.
after that scene, you get the final end credit scene where Star-Lord is just sitting there eating cereal with his grandfather, and he's
That we didn't watch.
and literally it goes to the Marvel. It's this Star-Lord will return, and you hear Chris Pratt in the background going, and like eating his cereal. Like throughout the rest of the credits, you just hear him rolling with the audio of him eating cereal. My question is, do you think this spells big things or good things for Marvel future, or bad things? Because this is apparently James Gunn's last movie with Marvel. He's moving to DC. He's taking over their stuff.
I think it'll probably shift more focus to Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a new actual Spider-Man movie coming out, but also, have you watched any of the Miles Morales?
I mean, I've seen that. The
animated
I loved the animated one.
They're coming out with another one of those as well.
Well, I mean,
which I'm
but that's
super
Sony
excited
Marvel
about.
together.
Yeah.
So, which always makes them mad when the Sony Marvel movies do better than the regular Marvel. They're like, what are we gonna do? You know?
You know the Spider-Man movie where all three Spider-Mans were there?
Yes.
That's
No Way
so
Home.
good.
Well, now the new Flash movie, they're having both Batmans. They're having Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton.
More than that.
Oh.
Remember what I told you? If you like this clip from the Not Gospel Studios channel, don't forget to share. Click on one of the other links and videos. You can find them here, and subscribe. I think it's down here. Tell your friends about us. Tell them that it's healthy, that it's vegan, and all of those things. Keep being awesome, because that's how God made you.